Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Bigfoot Tonight Show. Coming to you from Maryland, this is your host, Chuck Prawl. From Ohio, my friend and co-host, Stacy Hostetler. As we bring you every Sunday night, cutting-edge researchers and witnesses to the giants that roam the forests of North America. So pull up a chair, turn down those lights, and let us take you off trail and deep into the world of the hairy giant we know as Bigfoot.
Good evening, everybody. It's the Bigfoot Tonight Show, Sunday, January 12th, 2014. How's everybody? I hope everybody's had a pleasant week, and thanks, everybody, for joining us this evening. I think we're going to have a pretty good guest, I think, tonight, Chuck. We've got somebody local from Southern Ohio.
And you found him, too.
Actually, I did not. We'll have to give all the congratulations to Doug Waller and the Sosby Group from Southern Ohio, here in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Southeastern Ohio Society
thanks,
Bigfoot Research. Yep. Yeah, this gentleman actually gave him a very, from what I've heard from everybody that attended the last weekend, I mean, they had quite a few people at the local library in Cambridge, Ohio, down below Salt Fork, last weekend. I was going to be in attendance at the speech this gentleman gave, and they had a local meeting just for all kinds of new reports and that kind of thing, but Jerry was one of the main people that was speaking, from my understanding, and wanted to attend, and got in a fender bender that prohibited me from going, but get to hear him now. I've talked to him on the phone I think we talked for about an hour and a half, and I think you did too, earlier this week, and sounds like he's got some interesting activity more in the more central Ohio, a little bit southern but central Ohio region in Knox County, Ohio, and but really appreciate Doug and the whole entire group that he's kind of moderates and is in charge of. They're just a great group of people, and appreciate him kind of throwing somebody our way here. I think you guys will enjoy Jerry, so sounds like a great guest. He's got some interesting activity, stuff a little bit different. I think he's got a little bit different background than most of the people we're used to that have Bigfoot activity. So I don't know, is there anything more about him that you wanted to say before we brought him on?
Well, I did want to say a couple other things first.
Sure.
It's been a really busy week on my blog this week. I mean, there's some really interesting things happening in the Bigfoot world. First of all, we had that new show. Did you see the new show, the new Bigfoot Bounty show?
Yeah.
And what did you think of it?
Pretty depressed afterwards. I made it through halfway through without. But I literally wanted to find. I'm sorry, you're asking my opinion, and I'm pretty opinionated.
No, please.
I usually don't cut loose a whole lot, but I was pretty. I thought I put actually on my Facebook page. I actually put kind of made a general comment: 2 steps forward, 20 steps back. So just the way I felt about it. I mean,
I felt the same way.
You're asking my opinion, and I guess part of the show is mine, so I'm going to go ahead and say my little tidbit, so.
Please do.
I just didn't think the show, it was a massive disappointment.
Don't
did
hold
I really
back
think
now.
much? Well, did I? Well, I mean, I just, I usually rarely cut loose. I mean, most people that I know that know me I'm fairly opinionated, but You know, it's nothing but I don't even know what you call it. I mean, it's your basic classic setup bogus reality show. I mean, that's all it comes down to. I mean,
That's what I wrote about on my blog.
Well, I mean, I'd love to see the comments in the chat room from everybody that's here tonight. We'll see what you know if you saw the somebody put in the chat room an attempt to sell TV ads, which is TV's got its motivation for doing everything, and I know that's part of it and stuff. And I'm not really. I mean, a lot of people have made comments on the personalities that actually took place in it, but
I know.
Just the whole.
They picked people that would create a lot of drama. That's basically how they play it, I don't think they get rid of anybody that talks a lot because they want those people that are really opinionated on those shows, And
and you can get the basic consensus, I think, amongst the more serious squatchers. I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, I don't care if you've been in it a couple years or you've been into it, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 20 years. So there's been plenty of people make comments on Facebook that, and other places too, that it's just, I think I saw maybe 1 or 2 people that actually, from my understanding, actually do any real squatching or whatever you want to call it, Bigfoot research or whatever class.
How can you expect anybody to go out there in the woods in the first night and get evidence of Bigfoot when they don't even know if there's anything around for the first place, and expect them to bring back DNA or visual evidence? I mean, that might take 10 years if you ever get it. I mean,
the other thing too is that it was one of those elimination shows too. They eliminated people, just basically whether you could shoot a dart gun and get hit the side of a yak or whatever.
Right.
I don't know if it was actually a yak, but there were animals like that in the woods and deer and some other animals, and that was the whole premise of, making you had to come back with stuff that looked like hair or anything else as far as circumstantial evidence that some creature like that would be in the area, and I just don't know how. I would want as many people in the woods, but very much spread out, not just tromping through. But a lot of them didn't even have what I would consider proper gear on. So at least I'm not. Like I said, there were a couple people that, I know there were a couple hunters on there that were pretty avid hunters. I think it was a son and a dad team that I thought would. But just the whole premise of the show, that's just my whole feeling of it. I could probably go on for 15, 20 minutes, but, it is what it is. But I just didn't think it did much for bigfooting in general. It doesn't do anything as much for discovering them, although I've got my personal views on whether it's even worth doing that anymore. So, I mean, that's just me personally. I don't want to ruin bigfooting. I still enjoy going out by myself, and you can make arguments as far as going out by yourself as well. So, it is what it is. I guess my one Facebook post pretty much covered it. It was a real succinct kind of comment, and I guess, what did you think of it overall?
Well, I thought it wasn't done very well, and I just think it's just going to be one of those shows again where it's more about the people on it, not finding Bigfoot, but more about the people on the show than anything else. And I don't think they'll do anything. I don't even know if the show will get through 1 year because the way it's set up, it's not going to find anything. I don't think they're going to find anything. It's not set up to find anything.
Unless somebody makes something up, I guess.
Yeah. Well, they got cameras with them. Yeah. So,
it is a reality show, so I guess you got to have a climax of some kind someplace. But
yeah, they might make stuff up for it. Who knows? But they might even send people out there in Bigfoot suits.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't have a whole lot of hopes for it. I mean, it is what it is. But I don't know. I guess I'm done with that. So. Probably
the other thing I wanted to bring up is, before I bring Jerry out, one more other thing is that I put a post up on Bigfoot Buzz tonight or today about a sighting that took place in 2006 in the Sequoia National Forest, and it's been on the web for a long time. It's a lot of people discounted it because it was made by a young filmmaker, a guy that just got out of school, but I hope people take another look at it tonight. A guy named Thinker Thunker did a analysis of it and zoomed in on parts of it, and there's a lot more to that video. And I always thought it was a great video anyway. I always thought it was real. I really did. I think it was as real as the Patterson film. If you look at that creature in that thing, it moves. It doesn't move like a human being, and it's built. I mean, it's just built like two big halfbacks put together. And go to my site and look at it. I hope everybody gets a chance to look at that again. That the analysis that was done on that. It's amazing, and it might change your mind about it if you have already seen it and had an earlier opinion on it. But
sounds good.
All right. Well, bring on Jerry.
Okay. Jerry, can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, not too bad. How are you guys doing?
Great,
Very
great.
good.
How's
Nice
the
to have you
weather
here tonight,
down there?
Well, that
Oh,
didn't
sorry.
sound too good. Real great. Yeah, the weather's not too bad right now. It's no snow. We ain't got no snow, and it's getting a little chilly out there. Temperature's dropping tonight, but yeah.
I mean, was it pretty warm up there yesterday? It was 65 here.
Oh no, it didn't get up that high. It in the morning it was 54, I think, in the morning, and then the temperature dropped as the day went on.
Oh,
Got
okay.
down to like 43 by nighttime. It was back down in the low 30s again.
Wow. Yeah, we were in the 60s until like midnight, and then it started dropping. But it was a warm day yesterday. Warm and rainy.
Yeah, today was a pretty decent day in Ohio for bigfooting, and I'd say yesterday too. After all the snow melt, would have been perfect with all the mud everywhere to get a good print someplace, you know.
That's true. That's a good day to go out. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Jerry, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. You know, where you're from, and what you do, and maybe how your first experiences and possible Bigfoot.
Well, I originally from Columbus, Ohio. My father was a pizza maker, owned pizza places, and enslaved over dough for him for years. And then I moved to Michigan with some cousins of mine, become a logger up there, and then moved back down from Michigan, and I've been tractor trailer mechanic ever since. And I work right here in town in Mount Vernon, Ross Brothers, their salvage yard there. I work on all their equipment and their trucks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, but we've got a gold claim. Actually, we've got 4 gold claims with this. That's what I do on the side as a hobby prospector. I do gold prospecting on the side, and we've got a claim out here in Gambier, which is just what they'd say northeast of Mount Vernon, on John Norris property. And our gold club is the OSPA, Ohio State Prospector Association.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, we set camp up there, and we go out and do gold prospecting. It's a hobby thing, but we find some decent stuff out there. Flower gold mostly, But
have you found much gold?
Nah, I've found a little bit here and there, trade around and deal with and this and that and the other. But the glaciers brought us down here from Canada years ago. It's not it's not bearing gold around here. It's been deposited from glacier deposits. But this is a good area from here clear down to Cincinnati. It's where the glaciers pushed and they made a J shape and went down towards around Cincinnati. We got one claim down there. It's in Georgetown, and that's one of our best claims.
Mm-hmm.
Guys down there are pulling small nuggets out of there and pickers they can pull out with their fingers, and it's just great, you know.
Have you ever found an ounce of gold?
No.
Okay.
I wish I have. Especially here in Ohio, because that would be something to brag about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I would have to say there's other guys in our claim that has been pretty darn close to maybe a half an ounce, and then maybe a season or 2 seasons, you know,
Right.
down at Georgetown and hitting other claims. But Kokosing River, it does bring in good gold, but it's when the deposits wash out when we get good floods, you know.
Right.
And not only that, our claim down here in Gambier, just east of Mount Vernon, it's great for camping and fishing. They got smallmouth fish, and you wouldn't believe it. It's just phenomenal. We've got a mile of frontage there leased to our club that is just, it's phenomenal. Camping down there. There's a bike trail just to the north of the claim there, just a little bit. It's called the Kokosing Gap Trail, and it's paved, and people ride their bikes up there. But when it grows up in the summertime, you can't even hardly see people going by on it, you know. But it's real secluded. It's really secluded.
Have you had any kind of Bigfoot activity down there?
Now, that's where I had my activity at in the previous years that I joined the club.
Oh, okay.
But
what was your first experiences with Bigfoot?
My very first that I didn't realize we had was me and a buddy of mine, and we was up by Columbus there, which is Groveport's, where I grew up as a youngster up through high school.
Right.
Groveport, and right out of Groveport, what they called Three Rivers. There's actually a little subdivision there called Three Rivers. That's where it met up at, between Williams Road and Elm Creek Drive, you know. Well, we was fishing one night. Rocks kept getting thrown through the trees in the water. And we're in the middle of the night. We had the truck pulled back in there. It's a great big piece of property back there. It's not even open to the public now, except they put a bike trail through it, too. They kind of made it like a metro park. Back then, you could quad ride. There was trails. The landowner didn't care, didn't give, a hoot about nothing. It was pretty close, have to say close to 200 acres back there. And there's 3 rivers that met right there together, and they run all through this different property. Well, we was fishing one night, and we had little tiki torches set up all over the place, and we would just, throw out some lawn chairs and sleep in them, always fishing overnight.
Really? Fish? You sleep right in your chair, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
The old style that used to cock straight up, and then you had to cock them back down, or you could pitch one side up. Yeah. And we'd get those, they had the plastic strands going across them.
Sure.
It's actually uncomfortable as hell, but anyhow, so we'd sleep in them, but we'd sit there and set our poles up to where they was in fitted places to where we got a catfish, our pole would be there, but we could hear the reel going. But anyhow, make long story short, we had rocks being thrown. And I looked at my buddy and I said, and I'd never experienced anything like this in my life. And I looked at him and said, man, I'll tell you what, that sounds to me like meteors hitting the water there. I said, if that's pretty shallow with a metal detector, man, you could probably pick him up,
Yeah.
And so this went on till about 1 o'clock in the morning. And
I mean, were they getting close to you, or are they just hitting the water?
they was hitting the water. Now,
Okay.
a couple of them did hit the bank, but they was
Right.
small stones. They was
And
small.
did you think it was really a meteors coming down, or?
Seriously, that's what I thought it was. I thought,
Wow.
you got a meteor shower here, or what's going on?
That
So anyhow, that ain't the best part of it.
Okay, go
We're
ahead.
sitting there, and it's like, I don't know, probably a little after 1 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and we hear this, like somebody grunting, and we hear something sound like a dozer coming in behind us, pushing trees over,
Jesus.
and I turned around, all I had was one of them little cheap flashlights with 2 double-D batteries in it, you know, the little red style kind, with 1 bulb in it. My buddy jumps up with, he just got a straight knife on his side and goes, "Kia!" You know, it's kind of funny what he did. It kind of freaked us out, and I hit the light. All we seen was 2 red eyes kind of up in the air. And my buddy said, that's probably a coon knocked over a dead tree. And I said, well, louder than I said, it sounded like a herd of deer coming through there. So next morning we got up, packed our stuff up, and I walked back over there, and there's this huge tree, had no top in it, was dead. And it had just been shoved over, and you could see where it was busted. We had no wind that night. It was so calm. It was a great night for fishing.
Yeah, it was like it was trying to get you to go away. It was trying to get you to run away with the rocks being thrown, and you just thought that was coming from the sky, and then it growled at you, hoping that would make you leave and knocking trees over.
That was it. We heard a grunt. It wasn't even a growl. It was like, and
right.
We heard, and then
like, I want these guys to leave.
That big tree, I'm not kidding you, it's bigger. That tree was as big around as my kitchen table here. It's not, my kitchen table is not very big around, but it's pretty good size, about 36 inches in width, straight through. But there was no top in it. That part of that tree was only probably about 11 to 14 foot high, but it was busted off right at the base.
Right.
And you could tell it was dead, but it had been shoved over. Well, behind that, there was no other smaller trees or nothing for a coon to be up into with red eyes.
Right.
And I kind of took that in as a grain of salt, you know.
Mm.
And okay. So years back, now we start back in watching Finding Bigfoot. Here we hear rocks being thrown at people, and this and that and the other. At the time my mom was living. She just passed away last March. So I told my mom about that story, you know, and she was like, I remember you telling me about that, you know. And I said, that's exactly what had happened to us when, you know, I turned it and seen red eyes up high, but we figured it was a coon, but come find out coons don't have red eyes.
Yeah, I know. And you know, I always heard now, I hear a lot lately that when you see red eyes, it's it's like an angry, you know, an emotional reaction when they give you red eyes. You know, that's what causes it. You know, it's like get out of here. We don't want you around type of an attitude. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm no expert at it. I don't know nothing about it.
I mean, we're thinking. You know. We don't know either.
Right. But that's what we seen that night. You know, and we figured it was a coon. You know, it bumped a dead tree But no, this was a huge tree that had it had been busted off, and then the rest of it was shoved back over, you know.
Right.
And but in a way, it didn't freak us out. We had no clue. We just thought, you know, we went on about our fishing, went to sleep, nothing else bothered us. Okay, we're going to skip from that. So I joined the Gold Club.
Uh-huh.
Okay? In 2009, I joined the Gold Club. And back then, I was just tenting out there. I had a little bit of equipment that I had bought, sluice box and gold pans and this and that and the other. And I was out there camping out there in 2009, and I'd helped them put up the pavilion. We got a little pavilion out there. We helped put it up. I was out there by myself. I had a three-wheeler at the time, drive up and down the river, and set up my sluice box and do my gold prospecting. And I got out of my tent one morning and went to use the porta-john. And this is right at daylight,
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the porta-john, and I heard something sound very, bipedally walking behind the porta-john.
Right.
I raised up, and you got these little windows just vented around the inside of that porta-john, And I raised up there, kind of looked out, and by then I could hear the steps walking away. But behind where we have our porta-john, it's kind of heavily wooded.
Right.
Up until the creek, it's only, I'd say, less than 70 yards, not to the creek, but the river. And it had walked away. But in the meantime, I'd been waiting for that porta-john to be tipped over,
Right.
while I was in it.
So this thing came up to the back of the john and then walked back into the thick brush, right?
Yes, it was that close.
Wow. I mean, what did you think?
Oh, I didn't know what to think. I thought, there's that bike path there. I thought maybe that or a canoer come by and somebody was walking up through there. But this was very heavy steps. It was snapping limbs. I mean, every step it took, and it sounded like it was just, every step was wide. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
It was slow, but took its time and was evaluating what was going on.
Wow. That's kind of scary to be sitting in there and having something like that happen. So it's
Well,
just
yeah,
at daybreak, right?
You're wondering how you're going to get that porta-john back off of you after you've turned blue, besides
yeah.
what's inside that porta-john.
Really?
Yep.
That's worrisome, man.
So in 2010, me and another prospector, he's a good friend of mine, I'm not going to mention his name, he was out there with me. I bought a small camper off of him, and he had I don't know what you call it, had the van front end, but he still got the motor home. It's a motor home he's got, and I had a pull-behind camper I bought off of him.
Jerry, before you continue this, just keep where you're at, but let me just ask you about that other at the Port John. Did you tell anybody about this? I mean, after this happened, did you ever think it could have been Bigfoot? Did you ever even think of Bigfoot back then?
No, I didn't. Nope, I didn't.
Okay. And you didn't tell anybody or mention it to somebody that this happened to you?
No,
Okay.
I kind of got spooked, and I left the tent there and just went and packed the three-wheeler up my truck and headed home.
Right.
And come back a couple of days later and went back to prospecting,
Okay.
And then I didn't have no other activity after that, that I realized.
Right.
It just,
All right. I just wanted to make sure that nobody, thought of Bigfoot back then. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so 2010, me and another prospector was down there,
Mm-hmm.
and we got on the subject about finding Bigfoot show.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's probably about 10 o'clock, right after dark. It was in the summertime. And he got a call from his wife, was talking to her, and I told him when he got off the phone, I said, I'm going to do some wood knocking. You know, we've been watching the show, and we got on the subject of it. I said, let's see what happens out here, you know. And he's laughing. He said, yeah, he said, you probably have one of the bikers come over here and, you know, wanting a hot dog or something from there. I said, okay. Anyhow, I commenced the wood knocking.
Right.
I knocked 3 or 4 times, and right down the river, whereas there was a house on the right-hand side that just got sold with the farmland, but nobody has occupied it. And on the left-hand side is the bike path, and nobody on the other side, but for probably about another, there's a house there, but it's probably around a quarter of a mile from the bike path. But we heard 2 knocks, straight knocks, come directly right behind us. There's a old cabin. There used to be an old cabin back there, burnt to the ground, but there's an old barn, and they've got some kind of little structure set up there with like a little brick stove back there. We heard 2 distinctive knocks come from that there. Now,
Right.
if it was a person or Bigfoot, we don't know, but we didn't hear no more activity. But Sonny said, I'm going to get my trailer. That was a guy, I shouldn't say his name. But anyhow, I'm going to my camper, and I went to mine.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, after that, you know, we kind of fooled around with it and joked about it, you know, and there's probably some bikers down there on the path doing that, you know, and
Right.
but
What
yeah,
time of
it's
night was this?
was
this
it's about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, right after it got dark, because in the summertime, you know, it gets darker, you know, later in the day.
Right. Do you see a lot of people walking around there at night?
Not down the bike path, no.
Right.
You see them mostly during the day, but not at night.
Right.
You hardly ever see anybody down there.
So
Every once in a while, maybe somebody at dusk will have a flashlight in their hand, and you'll see the flashlight bobbing up and down in their hand, you know, where they're heading back towards Gambier.
Right.
But
But
no,
you
we
hear
hardly
these
ever
knockbacks, and I mean, did you think right after you heard them? Did you think, "Oh my God, is that a Bigfoot or what?" I mean, you didn't think it was a real Bigfoot?
I did. You know, I was starting to believe then, you know, and I was like, okay, you know, but my partner there that's gold prospecting with me, he's kind of skeptic about it, you know, and he said that, you know, the next morning we was talking about it, he said that could have been just somebody down there off the bike path, you know, beating back on a tree, you know, and it could have been. We don't know.
I mean, sure, it could have been. I mean, it could have been anything. It could have been, you know, people knew about tree knocking by then, you know, pretty widely if they've seen any Bigfoot shows. But
right.
and finding Bigfoot is what really made that popular is the tree knocking thing. But I don't know if it was on in 2009. Stacy, was it on in 2009?
No, that was in 2010.
He said 2010.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe they was on in 2010. I think that's when we started. That's when they had their first episode, I think.
Right, and that's how you got the tree knock, because you saw it. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it was 2010. Don't hold me to that, but
right.
I'm just going by what I can remember. I never wrote none of this stuff down, so you know, it's hard, you know, to classify all of it down if you didn't write it down, you know, as far as trying to remember it. But.
Right. All right. Well, what happened next?
So, yeah, in 2011, I had the small camper out there. I got off my partner there, and we'd sit out around the fire. And he's not a real late feller, you know. He'll sit till dark, which gets, like I said, in the summertime down there, about 10 o'clock. So we'd sit around the fire for a while, and I said, well, I'll go to my camper too. He went to bed, and he went in there, was sound asleep, and I got in there, and I play a little guitar, not a whole lot. I used, play around. My cousins had a bluegrass band up in Michigan. I played upright bass for them a little bit in our church, but I pick around on a guitar a little bit. I don't know a whole lot, but I was picking around on it and singing a song, and my camper started rocking. Well, I had my camper on, I had the levelers out there on it. I said, how's this thing rocking? What's that? So I stopped playing my music, and then it quit. So I started playing my music again, then the camper started rocking again. So I thought it was...
Sorry, it didn't like your music. Didn't like your music choices.
It must not have. Yeah, I should have been playing rock and roll at the time I was playing country, Yeah. But anyhow, I thought it was the landowner's son playing a prank on me, and I kept hollering out there, Stephen, knock it off, Stephen Norris. He don't care if I use his name, but anyhow, Stephen, I kept hollering his name. I'd go back to playing my guitar, and camper go rocking again. Finally, I said, Stephen, knock it off. And I was inside the trailer of the camper hollering that. And then I had a shovel that I use. It's a big shovel, just spade shovel. And I use that for my prospect. And it was leaned against the camper on the front of the camper. Well, all of a sudden I heard bang! And I went, what the heck was that? And I opened the front door, and the shovel's laying out about 6, 7 feet from the camper out in front of my door. And I went looking around out there in the dark, and I could not see a thing. I mean, it was a little light out. It was like a crescent moon, but there was nothing that I could see.
Right.
And it's not like we're in a real wooded area where we camp. We've got it cleared out. We keep it mowed like a golf course.
Right.
So anyhow, my shovel's laying out there. It put a gash in the front of my, where the door side is, on the side of the camper. The shovel did. And so apparently he didn't like my singing. And,
well, I mean, did you think at the time that it was still that kid, or were you getting scared? I mean, come on, what's going on?
No, I didn't get scared. I thought, well, that was Stephen playing tricks on me. So next morning, I told Sonny about it. Sonny's laughing, and I said his name again. Anyhow, my partner, he ain't gonna care. He don't care. Anyhow, he said, it's probably your imagination. So I called up John, the landowner, and I said, I said, was Stephen down here last night? Sometimes he'll go from camp to camp, talk to people, and he said, no, he's with his girlfriend. He's been there all night.
Wow.
Over to his
So
girlfriend.
now what do you think?
Then I started thinking. Well, okay. 2012, we had a really, really good year as far as meetings and everything. We had a lot of campers there, and from our gold prospect, and it got out and did a lot of prospecting in 2012. And I was telling them about what was going on and this, and everybody laughed. And one gal, she brought me up some, from the club, she had a 6-pack of that, it's South Dakota beer or something, but it had a Sasquatch on it or something. She brought that to me, and, it was more or less we was funning about it and this and that and the other, and we'd get around the fire at night, and it's, go ahead and let out a holler, and I'd do a whoop, and we wouldn't get no response. There was just too many people, and generators going on, and, this and that and the other going on. And when we have outings like that, it's just, I found out later that there was no activity. I'm sure they was observing but not interacting.
Right.
And
especially if
but we
there's
had a
women
lot
and
of
children.
fun with it. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it.
Well,
But,
tell me, when after this happened to you, and it even dented your door, right? What did you think? I mean, did you think it was a Bigfoot, or?
I did after that.
And
After
I mean, did that kind of scare you?
After I found out it wasn't the landowner's son,
Right.
it started really getting to me.
Right.
To really get out there and start checking this out.
Right.
But I didn't have no equipment. I didn't have trail cameras. I am a deer hunter, but I'm the type of deer hunter, trapper. I read signs. I don't get out and put trail cameras out or nothing. I don't.
Right.
I'm the type of person to use a little less type of technology as I have to,
Right. What time of year was this when this happened to him?
It was during the summertime.
Okay.
I can't tell you. I know it was hot out. It may have been June, July, August. I don't remember.
And was this the same place where the John was? Was this the same area?
Yep.
Okay.
The Norris claim, we call it the Norris claim.
Right. And so this if this was a Sasquatch, it just didn't like you, I guess, huh? Like you're singing and it's trying to scare you. Like, stop that singing, get out of here.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks like it.
Is there people catches coyotes around there, and I've never heard a coyote call
Right.
in that area. Never. Ever since I've been out there, I've never heard a coyote. My partner said he heard some out there one night. They seen some coons out in the field, but I've never heard coyotes out there. And now last summer, I spent the whole summer out there. I lost my mother in March 2013, and lost my job. And I got an enclosed trailer. It's brand new I bought, and I got a quad and stuff. And I ended up going down there and staying all summer last summer. And I didn't really have money and stuff to invest in recorders or anything.
Right.
All I went and got was a cassette tape recorder out there, and from Walmart, and a microphone. And I was setting it up in my pickup truck, setting the microphone out there, and right at dusk, I was recording these tapes, which are only 90 minutes. It says 90 minutes, but they're only,
45
they're only
per
so
side.
long on each side. Yeah.
Right.
And you can't record on the other side, or else they'll bleed through the other side.
Right.
But I found out they suck. But so
I didn't even know they still had the cassette recorders.
Yeah, they still they sell them. They've got actually high def tape cassettes too, like the ones I got that you're supposed to be able to record a CD onto it off the cassette player.
Right.
Which our webmaster of our Gold Club tried doing, but one of my tapes got messed up that had some of the best audio on it.
Did anybody else in that Gold Club have any experiences like you did?
Oh, yes. 012, yep. 013, excuse me, 013. Yeah,
right.
we had some new members that actually joined up, I could say last year now because it's 014, but
right,
013, right after my sighting in August, it was the last week in August I had my sighting, then I went to Gold Rush weekend up in Belleville, Ohio. They have this big deal for Gold Rush up there. It's the GPAA, which I'm a member of both clubs, the OSPA and the GPAA both.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had my sighting, and I went and told everybody in the club, and people, I'm sure, we got skeptics in our club, quite a few of them, and they probably thought, he had too much drink, I've seen something, and this and that and that, but anyhow, we had these new members that was at Gold Rush the weekend before it started. They camped out there. They joined our club and ended up going back to the Norse claim where I had been doing research at most of the summer. Okay.
Right.
Been doing loads of research there, just out of my curiosity,
Right.
Well, while they was there, they spent the whole weekend, and they had an experience there. Didn't deter them, though. They was there till the bitter end. They was there till Sunday. Well, I packed up Sunday from Gold Rush days in the morning like I usually do, and I headed back to the Norse Claim, which is straight south, about 45-minute drive from Belleville to Mount Vernon, or Gambier, where we was at. And I got there, and I backed up, pulled my trailer up, got it set up. This enclosed trailer I got kind of made it like a little camper inside.
Right.
It's a year old. I just bought it. Actually, I bought it the first part of 2013. So it's kind of nice, and I kind of made it into a little camper. So anyhow, I went over talking to these new members, introduced myself and everything, and they said, "You ever had anything weird happen to you up here?" I said, like what?
Wow.
And they said, we got all that rain this weekend, which was on like Saturday that weekend, because we got it up there too in Belleville, but it wasn't a whole lot. But from Saturday night, it had calmed down, went to a calm, and they had a tarp up behind their tent, strapped between the two trees to keep the wind and everything off their tent.
Right.
And they told me a story. They said we kept hearing noises out there on the riverbank. We didn't know what they were. And then later we went back to sleep. We woke up. We smelled this foul odor. She said it was just horrid. It was horrid, she said.
Right.
And it was coming through our tent, she said. And the next thing you know, the top of our tent just bowed down a little bit.
Jesus.
And we just looked at each other, and she said, and in that tarp, we heard somebody peeing on it.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
She said, so we never moved. She said, we never moved. She said,
I bet they were scared to death.
There. Yeah. And so as they're telling me this story, I went back to my trailer, and I said, you guys wait on a minute, before they went back down and continuing prospecting, they had their equipment set up. And I come back and I had a casting that I had gotten from out of July of 2013 right after we had the flood down there.
Right.
I'd found two prints. I messed one print up. The other one turned out great. But it was only 13 inches long and 5 1/4 inches wide.
Right.
I took this print back over to him. I said, "Now, do you think it was this fella?" "Oh my God! Where did you get that at?" I said, "Right over there on the other side of my camper." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, we can't." Yeah, they said something was actually messing with. So they got in a hurry to come back the next weekend so they could do their own investigations. They was out there with spotlights, standing in the middle of the river and everything, Well, I had told them, because, see, I'd already had my sighting. I told them about what had happened, what went on. And
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was going to say, Jerry, somebody in the chat room wanted to know, did they give you any more description about the smell from the creature? Anything a little bit more defining about it?
This is what the woman told me. She said, and I don't want to cuss on air, she said it was a mixture of smell of maybe a little bit of skunk and somebody's behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay, so that was the way she defined it, but not quite in that description.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
She said it was, the odor was so bad that they smelled it come into their tent.
Now, did it go away after it left?
Yep, they said it just, and they could hear the footsteps. They said they
Jesus.
heard it walk away.
You know, I've heard this before of them peeing on a tent before. Where did we
Yep,
hear that?
Yeah, that was actually on one of the, I don't know if it was on Monster Quest or one of the, I know it was one
Yeah.
of the shows on TV.
Right,
I know it was.
right. Yeah.
Didn't that happen to, wasn't it Mayaninski that happened
Yeah,
to?
I was thinking that maybe it was Mayaninski that said that. Yeah.
Wasn't he out studying, doing some biological study someplace? Didn't that happen to him?
Yeah,
I
think
could
it
be
was.
wrong. Maybe that's who it was. It just came to
Well,
my
I thought
mind
there
for
was
some reason.
somebody on Finding Bigfoot. I thought there was somebody they interviewed too, a male and a female that was out too, and they had urination on their tent too.
Right. Now, I've heard it a couple times. I might have read it or seen it on a video or something like that. But I know I've heard it before, and it's like, you know, it's like they're leaving their, you know, they're marking you. You know, I mean, it's
Like
like,
dog.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's I seriously doubt peeing can be an indication of approval of any kind. So
I mean, did they? I mean, that had to be kind of scary to hear something like somebody outside in the middle of the night peeing on there.
They said this was bipedal when they heard the urination because a dog ain't just going to hike his leg. And I've heard, you know,
No.
my little dog lived with me out there at the campground up until right before my sighting. He passed away. He had a stroke, and he was 15 years old, and, you know, he was a beagle. I've seen him hike his leg on a tree, and you could barely hear it. But when you hear somebody stand up in the middle of the night, I've heard guys that's been drinking beer go out around a pickup truck 50 feet away, and it sounds like a waterfall, you know? So there's a little bit of difference of a bipedal urination than a dog or a coyote or a fox.
And especially when there's women around, you know, and if they're 8 feet tall, it's going to make a lot of noise when they're peeing, you know. I mean,
you ain't kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, that is.
Now
we've
got two other prospectors. You know what we call the island out there, but it's just a gravel bar on the other side of the river. You can walk to it when the water's down. And they've been coming to the SOSBI meetings, too. It's Carmen and Ron. I'm sure they wouldn't care if I used their names, neither. He had an experience of rocks being thrown at him.
Wow.
Okay. Now, this is before I had my sighting. I had a group of canoers go down to that same island, which is on the other side of the river where the thicket is, where all the activity was over the summer, the whole total of the summer. These canoers went down there, set up tents, and it was right before dusk. It was probably 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere around there. Hot summer, you know, in the middle of 2013, and they started having rocks thrown at them.
Jesus.
Well, they had something growl at them. Well, I'd seen them. I was sitting back at camp there. I always keep a fire going. I always do. I don't know why I like a fire. And I'm sitting back at camp. Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, I was having a beer or two, but I'd seen them pull out and canoe back down the river, you know, go on down further. A week later, no, I take that back. I think it was 2 weeks later, they had come back through, and these two guys ahead of everybody kind of pulled up to the bank there and just slowed down. They said, "Have you ever had any experiences out here weird or anything?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, he said, "Well, we was going to camp down here a couple weeks back." He said, "You were sitting in the same chair in the same spot, and we went by." I said, "I remember you guys. I waved at you and stuff." And
Yeah.
and see how you guys is doing and everything. He said, yeah. He said, we set our tents. Well, he said, we only got 2 tents set up, and something started throwing stones at us. And then we heard something growl, and he said, we was all down there looking to see where you was at, see if you had crossed the river and was messing with us. I said, nope. I said, the only way I cross that river is with my quad, with my 7mm Magnum on my back.
Right.
And he said, why? I said, hold on a minute. I went back to the trailer. I got the casting. I brought out there. By then, all these canoers are pulling up there, and I'm showing them this casting, and here they all come up the bank like they're rushing me. I was like, holy crap. They come up there, and they said, this is what you cast? I said, yeah, it was in July. It was July 17th, somewhere around there. We'd had a flood that just flooded that whole bottom down there. I had to pull out, and I went up and camped at the landowner's upper woods until the flooding went down, because I kind of help out with the place there, too, and I take care of it. So I wanted to make sure that we got the debris out of there and cleaned up. Well, 2 days later, the water had receded back, and I rode my quad down there, and we had a storm in between that, blew some trees over across our lane. So I took my chainsaw down there, cut the logs up, and that's when I went down there and found the print. Well, I explained this story to them, and they said, you got to be kidding me. He said, this thing was growling at us up behind us off of that gravel bar.
Wow.
I said, now you're here. I said, I've got cassette tapes. You guys got to hear it. I said, well, we ain't got time, though. But I said, now you guys going to camp down there at night? Because I said, if you are, I said, I just keep an eye out for you, you know. That way, they said, no, we've got a place downriver. We're going about a mile downriver. We camp now. Yeah. I said, okay. But yeah, it shocked them really. They really, and that was the first I'd heard that until, you know, on that island. And then Ron got his experience too of stones being thrown at him while he was down there prospecting. But he ignored them. He let it pass by, and he kept on prospecting. He didn't pack up, didn't, you know, show no fear, and kept doing his thing. But then those guys, I was gone one night. I had a girlfriend live down the road that I was seeing, you know, and had spent the night with. Ron and Carmen was down there camping, but my rig and all my stuff was still down there. And I always tell them, you know, keep an eye on my quad. I got a brand new quad. And great big 4-wheel drive quad I haul my equipment around with. Just keep an eye on it. Well, when I got back that next morning, they said, was you down here last night? I said, no. Carmen said, we heard them hollering, clear up the river this way. Then we heard them hollering, clear down the river that way. She said, they was unbelievable. They was, and then the landowner was hearing them too. He had his windows open up there at his house. He said, they kept him up all night.
Well, tell me this. There was 2 sets of howls from at the same time?
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a family group or something down there.
Something.
Yeah.
Now, the footprint that I had took, that I casted, was only 13 inches long. And I'm no expert, and when this all happened, after all this happened at the end of the season, you know, actually this winter, I'm trying to get a hold of the BFRO and ain't getting no response back. So I call up the SOSBI. First time I call somebody, 2 rings, I get a hold of Doug Waller. I tell him my story. Actually, it was this fall. I told Doug my story. He was down there in 2 days. Down there in Bethany. Yes. Great. You know, I mean, it couldn't got any better as far as about my
Doug sounds like a good guy. We had him on the show. He sounds like a nice guy.
Makes a big difference when you got fast follow-up on these kind of things. Really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, the meeting, you know, I had heard from one couple that's in our club said they went to a BFRO meeting, and all they wanted to do was sit around and sell T-shirts and hats and tell them there's Salt Fork, go find, see if you get pictures or something, you know.
Right.
And I'm not down on them. I haven't never been to their meetings, but the SOSBI come right out, investigated my report. They come out and checked it out. I'm no expert at this. All I did was play around with this to see if I could find something real evidence to really come around and deal with it, and I did it.
Well, before you get to your sighting, tell me this. How big were the stones that they were throwing? Were they little stones? Were any of them ever big stones or rocks?
I got to where I was I got a job up here in Mount Vernon. I told you it's a salvage yard. And once I started getting a job there and I'd come back in the evenings, there was nobody camping there. There was a cornfield across the river, and then the little woods there, but it's a thicket. It's a thicket woods. There was pretty good-sized stones to be thrown across there. Plus, they would tree knock when I got back in the evening. As soon as I got back, it's like they knew I got back. It was like they was telling me hi or something.
Or they were telling everybody else that you were back, you know?
Yeah.
You know, they were telling their buddies that you were back and to watch out.
Well, I never threatened them. I was feeding them. I was putting them out.
No, but they probably just wanted to let them know that you were there. You know, I'm just guessing, you know. But, I mean, just so they didn't walk out in front of you or something like that, you know?
Right, yeah.
Right.
You know, but, I had gotten, through my whole investigation this summer, I was actually putting hams out for them. You know, the little chunk hams that you get, you know, out of a can or this and that and the other, and I was cramming them onto a limb on a tree. I was putting Reese cups out there and Twizzlers. And Twizzlers, they was going out there and they was pulling one or two things out of Twizzlers at a time that count them. And you got to pull them apart and get them loose in the package, but I left them in the package. And the Reese cups, they would pull the whole Reese cup out of the package, throw it on the ground, but they'd take the brown part of the package with them. You know, the little brown wrapper that goes over around the cup itself.
Right.
Those was gone. I think they ate those.
Yeah, they probably smelled good.
Yeah. So, but they was taking those, and they had a trail coming up from where I was putting my audio up. Okay.
Right.
Well, they had switched directions after this. Now, like they had caught on to what I was doing or something. I don't know.
Right.
But, you know, I'm no expert in this field of it. I just wanted to play around with it. Like I said, we got, you know, in 2010 there, I got those tree knocks. I wanted to really investigate it and just as a prospector, you know, and see if I could really get some kind of response. I think I got more than I bargained for.
Oh, I think so, yeah. So do people come down there and just go down there to investigate now? For Bigfoot?
We've had a couple people from the SOSBI.
Right.
Come down there, you know, just they'll walk the bike trail and stuff and find out. Right now, our claim's shut down. It's down till April 1st.
Right.
But it reopens. But I think we've got some of the club or the SOSBI members that joined the Gold Club too, you know, and which once they join the club, they're allowed all the camping there they want, fishing, gold prospecting, Bigfooting, whatever they want to do, they can do there.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to ask Jerry a question, call in at 760-888-5753. All right. Okay, well, Jerry, why don't you get to your sighting unless something else happened before then?
What's that now?
Why don't you get on and talk about your sighting, and unless you've had something else happen before then? that you haven't talked about yet?
Okay. We'll just follow up from the footprint from July until August. Okay. I went up, bought the recorder, got some recordings. Okay.
Right.
Okay. The last week in August, because I was looking forward to going to the Gold Rush meeting there in Belleville. And I've been working for these other people on the side, too, besides my regular job that I had. And they'd give me this little trailer.
Right.
And it had a button. They told me, they said, you take the trailer, you got to take the junk with it in the back, which is full of old firewood and just odds and ends stuff back there. So I brought it back. And I built this great big fire going up. And I had sat there and had the fire going, and I went to sleep in my chair there. And I woke up about 1:30 in the morning, and I kept stoking that fire and throwing the rest of that stuff on there and making sure none of it rolled over towards my trailer. I didn't want it to catch on fire.
Right.
And I heard something crash across the river, like something grabbed a hold of a tree and just bent it over and busted it down.
Right.
And then I heard 1, 2, 3 splashes. And remind you, Kokosing River is a pretty good-sized river.
Right.
I heard 3 splashes after that. And
now, splashes like rock splashing or like footprint splashing?
No, footprint splashing.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
I got one great big yellow spotlight flashlight next to me, you know.
Right.
And so I turned the light on, and I was hoping it was going to be a big, pretty good-sized buck deer because deer season was coming in, you know, in September. And I was hoping to see that because the landowner does let me hunt down there.
Right.
And so I thought, well, hopefully it's a big buck, you know.
Yeah.
I heard that crashing noise. As soon as I turned the light on it, this thing dead stopped in its tracks. I call thing. It was a massive Bigfoot.
Oh, my God. How big was it?
Okay. I can't tell you how tall he was. He was in the middle of the river. I had nothing to scale him with, you know,
right.
for scale.
But it looked huge compared to a person, right?
Oh, my gosh, his chest. And you could see the arm muscles and everything. I had to flash. He was about 30 yards away from me. Not 30 feet, 30 yards.
Right.
So 30 yards is still pretty close.
Sure.
You know, I could have hit him in the eye with a rock, you know, 30 yards.
Yeah.
He was standing in the middle of that river from where my campfire was at 30 yards out there in the middle of that river, staring at me, dead staring at me with the reddest eyes I'd ever seen on anything. And they were the farthest part that I had ever seen.
Oh.
And he had the coned head, and he was completely black, totally black. I did not see no red, didn't see nothing. Now, the size of this guy compared from his ankles to my quad. When I run across there with the water down like it is,
right,
it comes up about 3 feet on the side of the motor on my quad.
Right.
And I could see the tops of his ankles above his feet.
Jesus.
That's how, now I can't tell you how tall he was. That's the only thing. I can't speculate that. There's just no way.
Did you ever go out and get somebody to stand out there and where he was standing?
Doug Waller walked down there, but you know, he said in size comparison, Doug's a little taller than me. I think he's a little over 6 feet or something.
Right.
I said Doug, he was way bigger than that, way taller. You know.
Wow.
Because there was a little gravel bar down there when Doug walked down there. You know. And,
right.
But I told him, I said, this is way taller. I said, this is not the one that left the footprint up here that I casted. You know, This is not the guy. This thing was huge. He was massive. And his shoulders and everything was so broad, it was like 2 of me. Now, I'm a pretty good-sized guy, but it was like, well, you guys seen the pictures of me at the SOSBI. Okay?
Right.
This thing, I dwarfed this thing by 3 times under. You know, I mean, this thing was huge. And when I had the light on him, I could actually illuminate see the skin around his, like his knees,
Right.
and the tops of his hands. You could see through the fur, this is what I'm assuming. I'm no expert, that they have summer hair and they have
Right.
winter hair. The summer hair, yes, I could barely see like a little bit of skin illuminating through his fur around his
Right.
knees and the front part of his legs and like the muscle in his arms.
What else
Now
did you see?
Well, he had the coned head.
Right.
I could see him full bore with my flashlight. I could see the whole body, the hands and everything.
Would they have big hands?
Oh yeah. And it was down, you know, when we walk, our hands are way above our knees. His hands, he had one hand kind of sticking out front and one out behind him.
Right.
And that's the way he stopped. And when I hit him with the light, and he
Right.
just stood there staring at me, and we had a little staring competition for seconds.
Right.
This was not minutes, this was seconds. And then all of a sudden, he just put both hands behind him, not up
Right.
over him, but behind him, and
Right.
lunged his body forward, because he had one leg forward, but he
Right.
didn't step nowhere or nothing. He just lunged his body a little forward and went, "Wah!" like that to me.
Ooh.
And when he did that, my light went off of him, and I could see his eyes illuminate a little bit. As my light went off of him, I went running around and got my trailer, and on my way in my trailer door is only so high. It's
Right.
kind of small. I can't tell you the exact measurement. I caught the corner of the door frame on my head.
Oh, wow.
So I went running in the trailer, and I did have a .357 Magnum on me that I didn't even remember having on me.
Well, tell me this.
I had it on me. I went in there and loaded the shotgun, and I
Right.
sat in there, and I locked the window. I pulled the windows closed because I got tinted windows. You can't see in. As long as you don't have light inside there, you
Right.
can't see inside the trailer. And I loaded the shotgun. I sat on my cot in there, I know, for a good 20 minutes, maybe 30. I don't know. It may have been longer. I don't know. But in the meantime, I'm waiting for my trailer to be thrown over on my door side where I'll have to kick the window out, crawl through a tiny window, or
Right.
something like that, you know. I never heard a thing. Never heard a thing.
You never heard him leave the river or anything?
Nope. So I sat there because I had the windows closed. And I finally went to sleep. I woke up, and I'm laying on the shotgun, and I got a scope on it, and I'm all tinked up. So I open the door to the trailer, and I peek out around there, and I'm looking out the window to see if I can see anything. There's nothing there. So I got out there, and I had empty water jugs on my table.
Right.
And for some reason, they was fascinated with these water jugs because you can hear them on my cassette tapes moving them water jugs around.
Right.
But there was 3 water jugs on the ground pointing at each other in a circle, and one of the lids had been twisted off of one of them.
Wow.
And then I had opened the beer, and I had took one sip out of that beer when I heard the noise coming from across there. That beer was empty, and the can was thrown on the ground. Then I had a trash can set next to me there. We got to have trash cans out of our campground to throw our debris in.
Right.
And I had a few beer cans empty in there, and he had tipped them up and sipped the last little bit of the beer out of the can and threw them on the ground and had a little trail of, I could see 2 or 3 beer cans going out of the little trail as he went back out the opposite way from the way I'd seen him. Now I went down there the next morning, and there was, the ground was still hard as a rock, and it's all grass, and we keep it mowed. But down where the water was, you could see the tracks where he'd come up through the gravel, but there was nothing it was underwater. You could see the tracks, and they was much larger than the one I had
How much larger? How much bigger than the 13-inch track?
Oh, I didn't measure them. I'd say off the top of my head, they was over 15 inches long.
Right,
just,
right.
just what you can see of the gravel impression, because
Right.
once you step in gravel, it falls back in. But, yeah,
Hey,
there was
Jerry.
cracks up to that. Yeah.
Jerry, didn't you also tell me in your measurements of the original, the 13-inch tracks, didn't you say they were about 5.5 inches wide?
5 and a quarter, something like that. 5 and a quarter, I think, is what they are.
Well, even with that, you're still you're pushing. I mean, I know some people might be able to push 13 inches, but you're still, even width-wise, you have 5.5 inches for a human's probably, that's a pretty thick foot still anyway.
Oh, yeah.
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 But that was on the 13-inch track, I mean, right?
Yeah, that's on the 13-inch track, yeah.
But, Jerry, when you ran into into your trailer, did you run in because he lunged forward?
Yeah, he took one step towards the bank, and I took off in there after he went, whoa, at me. And I could see every one of his upper front teeth, his whole front top lip come up, and I could see his top teeth, and there was no fangs there. I didn't see no fangs. His teeth looked like ours, just a little bit larger. But I could see all of them. His upper lip rolled up.
I'm fascinated by this, but listen, you're seeing this thing out there in the river. What in the hell were you thinking? I mean, what was going on in your mind at the time?
Well, I'll tell you honestly, and I'm going to tell it to everybody that probably knows me and everybody that does, if I hadn't had a few beers in me, I'd have probably urinated on myself and didn't know what to do. But I had a little bit of liquid courage in me, and the courage was enough to get me to run into my trailer, bust my head, sit in there, and wait to see what else happened.
Jesus.
You know, I actually pulled the phone out of my pocket and set it beside me on a little box I had there. I used it like a little night table, and I was waiting any time to have to call somebody, come down and get me, something's attacking me.
Hey, Jerry,
I did not want to, yeah.
Can you imagine waking up from your sleep and having this damn thing staring over top of you?
No,
I mean,
and believe it or not, when I first joined the club, I used to sleep on the ground around the fire and just under a blanket.
I know. I mean, I can't believe. Do you still sleep out there?
I'm enclosed, and like I've told everybody now, you know, this is the God's honest truth. I'm no Bigfoot researcher. I will never be a Bigfoot researcher. And after this summer of what happened to me, I will never feed these guys again. I will never taunt them again. I will never tree knock again. I will never whoop again. And that is it for me with Bigfoots. Because that is how bad I had it there. Now, anybody else wants to come out and research out there and do theirs, they're more than welcome to, but I see people getting caught up too much into doing this, and I can't do that. I am not going to let myself get caught up into it, and I have too many hobbies and projects now. I don't need to be going out in the middle of the woods and getting beat up or raped by a Sasquatch.
I can understand it totally. I can understand totally. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, it messes with your mind after a while. Jerry, I'm curious myself. Was there one feature that kind of rattled your brain the most? Was it the width? I know when I looked at my shoulders of my creature that I looked on at my sighting, I know it was the width of the shoulders that about sent total panic through me. Was there any one feature itself that did it for you, or was it just the whole conglomerate?
The shoulders, and I didn't see no neck. It was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know how he had them muscles come down from his neck to his shoulders when he was 28 years old, you know. But his biceps, that's, you know, to look at this thing there with huge hands. I couldn't see his feet days under the water, but his hands was massive.
Right.
But his eyes was the worst, just demonic.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the eyes freaked me totally out.
Oh, I bet. Oh my God, that is just so scary to have that happen to you. And
Jerry,
a lot of people. Go.
Sorry,
well, okay, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I'm
go
kind
ahead.
of curious if Jerry, do you have any, he lunged forward a little bit at you. What do you think would have happened if you would have stood your ground?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that.
Well, it stopped him from doing it, I'll tell you.
You know, I had forgot I had a 357 on my side, too, but I think that had just pissed him off.
Yeah.
What I heard from accounts, people shooting them with 30-30s and everything else, and they take off running, hollering.
Yeah, they just take off running, yeah.
Yeah, you just shoot them with a BB gun, you know. But I had a 7mm mag in the trailer, too, and I forgot about that and didn't load it up. And a 7mm mag is what they used to snipe with out in Iraq.
Right.
You know? And I know them do some damage, but
yeah.
I don't want to harm these things. I want them just to be with themselves, and I'll be with myself. I do not want to interact with them. Let them do their own thing, and I'll do my own thing.
He might have just wanted to come down and sit down and talk with you for a while.
Well, apparently he did want a beer.
Yeah. But, I just have a little note there. I mean, I think a lot of people that have never had a sighting, I think they think, how could you forget? You ask questions like, how could you forget you had a sidearm and some of these other weapons with you and this kind of thing. But, when you have a Bigfoot sighting, the amount of, at least for me, terror that goes through, you could have put anything on my side, and it wouldn't have made a doggone bit of. Same thing when people say, "Oh, why can't you get a video?" Unless your camera's rolling at the time it happens, you don't even remember you got a camera on you.
It's like monsters are real, It's like,
it's, at least for me, it wasn't. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So I think a lot of people
trying to sidearm on me. I had the sidearm on me. It wasn't the fact that it was there. I was so much in shock. Seeing the first thing I'd ever seen in my life that I've never seen on this earth before. I'm used to seeing men, women, dogs, children, fox, coyote. I'm a deer hunter. I've seen some unusual things out in the woods that I thought I could explain or unexplained that I now can explain.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, man, it's scary to know.
One time deer hunting, I went, "What the hell was that?"
Right.
And here this little coyote come out there and started whooping, and I went, "That sounds just like what they have on the Finding Bigfoot."
I mean, just to know that this thing is real, it's got to scare you. Just to know that it's something like this is real, that you hear people talking about it for years, that there's these giant hairy creatures living in your woods. And so, sure, come on, man, we would have seen it by now. But, I mean, it just has got to boggle your mind to know you see this.
I mean, maybe some people are different, but let me tell you from firsthand, man, it's a come-to-Jesus moment, right, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, it's...
Your mother told you monsters aren't real, and they are. I mean,
But, the one... Oh, sorry, Jerry. I was going to say the one thing I like about, at least with Jerry's situation, and even though he doesn't want to do any further research and stuff, Doug and his group down in southern Ohio, I mean, there's going to be some follow-up going out there, and maybe we can bring something else and put them up on the page later. I mean, I know this spring and summer there's going to be several people from Sosby here in Ohio that are going to want to come out there and hang out with Jerry, or maybe some other people there. So
I don't blame them, and I think that feeding them does start this. You're right, Jerry. I think that the feeding and the knocking, it brings them in, it makes them interested, it makes them think that you want to interact with them, and they will try to get closer to you, probably.
Yeah.
And who knows? People that sleep in their tents down there, they might have them up at their tent every night. You just don't know. I mean.
Yeah, I actually got to where I was talking to these things. I'd get back from work and I'd go up to the landowner's house, take me a shower, and before that, I'd hear it knocking, and I'd say, "How's it going, fellas?" I'd holler across the river,
Right.
But there towards the end, I'd quit recording and quit putting out stuff because I was afraid of a sighting, and then I did. And, like I said, I drove myself too close to these things, and there's people in this world that pay $1 million to be able to do that. I've heard some women say, I'd like to touch one, and not me.
Oh.
There's no way in this world I want to, unless somebody's done killed it or something, it's on display at the Smithsonian.
Right.
But we don't know enough about them. We do not know enough
we
about
don't.
them.
We don't
You
know.
know?
Hey, Jerry, is there any way, I remember when I was talking to you on the phone, is there any possibility in maybe like 3-4 minutes time you can go real quick through? It's not like this area doesn't have a history of potential Bigfoot activity anyway. Do you remember that story you were telling me about somebody shining a light in a local abandoned house around there?
Oh yeah. Now we're now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We're going down the rabbit hole now, fellas.
You got 3 minutes, Jerry.
Okay. We had right down the road, John's neighbor. He had right in the back of his house. I took him Bigfoot sounds. He had Matt Moneymaker's. I played him that sound of what they called the siren sound.
Right.
He said it sounded just like that in his ravine, right behind, down from where the house was. That his son had went down there and had seen these eyeballs peeking from window to window. Okay.
Oh my God.
Then I went and researched. Talked to these people up in Gambier, right at dusk of about 7 years ago. They worked for the road commission. They will not go on record, but they told me their story. They said this thing walked across from them, went across John's property, which is right across the river, and right at the end of daylight, right in front of them, okay? And then I found out there was another sighting on John's property off the bike trail. A bicyclist that we cannot find had took pictures of a female and a juvenile Sasquatch.
Wow.
And I'm just finding all this out. I am just finding all this out.
And you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
Well, Stacy, are you going to go down there?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a fairly decent invitation for people in the group and everything. And there's only so many can go at a time. But if Doug's, I'm way up north. I'm kind of,
Doug,
going
I
down to their
always
meetings and. What's that?
Yeah, I've always heard, Doug, that if you start feeding them and stop feeding them, that gets them upset. When they get used to being fed.
Yeah, I've heard those stories too before. But I mean, this is something that's going to be followed up on, and at least you got a group here in Ohio that's willing to do that and kind of follow up on these kind of things.
I hope so. I'd like to. And please, Jerry, keep in touch.
I'll give them a bowl of Cocoa Puffs. They'll come out there and dig some gold for me out of the river.
Hey, Jerry, before we let you go, because we've only got like a minute or two, do I have your permission? I know on the SOSB Facebook page, you've got, when you gave a talk last week, is it okay if I just go ahead and put some of your pictures? I think you've got one picture there, you holding up the cast print. Is it okay if I put that up on our page? Okay.
You're more than welcome to.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming, Jerry. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really
great
do.
Stories.
Amazing
it was
sighting.
great talking to you guys. At least I got to put my story out there again,
And Jerry, keep in touch with us, okay? Let us know if you see anything else happening around there.
Oh, I'll be down there all this summer again. But I'm doing prospecting and no Bigfoot.
No, I know, but if you hear any stories, let us know, okay?
Oh yeah, I'll let Doug and them know, and I'm sure there'll be members down there too. So.
Well, I think it sounds like you're going to have a couple active people that are involved in the gold prospecting just to get on there for bigfooting. So it's you might be overrun here a couple times this year.
Hey, but that's what we like. Maybe we'll get them into gold prospecting. Like I said, maybe we recruit a few Bigfoots, get out there and put a shovel in their hand and start digging some gold.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's all they're digging.
Yeah, I hope I get a chance to meet you this year, Jerry. Maybe I'll get down there with Doug and maybe some of the other members of the group, maybe.
Yeah. Let me know, and let me know when you guys will be down there, and I'll meet you.
All right. Sounds
that.
Great. Thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jerry. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, listen. Have a good winter, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. You guys
All right.
too.
Well,
Be safe.
Have a good week, Jerry. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was a great show. I really enjoyed some of the stories. Those are good.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe that sighting, man. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
they did, and I got to say, anybody that's a little skeptical, this area's got some previous activity, decades prior to that too. So
Right.
I mean, it's not like there's not some historical record to go on a little bit too. So, and it's along a riverbed, so not unusual for Squatch activity. So,
and I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Stace.
night everybody. Hey, thanks a lot. Night everybody.
Bye-bye. Good night.